So, what are we feeding our animals? What do we feed? What do you feed your dog or cat? What do you feed any other animal that you have? Are you aware of the ingredients that are in the food that you're feeding your animal, your pet, whatever? Well, Vegan Foot Soldier made a very interesting video on this topic, and I thought it was very interesting. This is something that I actually learned a while back. I took some sort of um, oops. I took some sort of class on animals, like animal care. I don't remember what it was for exactly, but I did do this. I think it was in high school. It was some elective that I just had an empty class, so I took it. Um, he basically addressed this very interesting topic that I didn't think too much when I didn't think too much of when I had a dog, but a lot of people are feeding their dogs or cats and they don't even look at what is in the food. You see a lot of people doing this with the food that they eat, but they don't do it for their pet. We're not gonna watch his video, um, but we are gonna go over some points that he made. Uh, yeah. So as for me, when I had a dog, we fed him this Blue Wilderness, like canned food or something like that, because it seemed like it had the least amount of fillers versus the other dog foods. This is when I was taking the class. It seemed like it had the least amount of like anything like didn't have too many grains and stuff like that, or like any kind of fillers. So because some dog foods have like I don't know what you call it. Uh, it's either this like weird substance. It's either fat or I'm trying to remember what it was, but it basically causes bloating, and it's just a filler, and it's just there's no nutrients to it at all, and it's not even food. Um, uh, every time I bought the food, I would wonder why can't I just feed my dog like a slice of chicken or something like that. I could just go to the store and get him some boneless chicken and just cook that. It seemed cheaper, and I wouldn't know and I would actually know what was in it. And turns out this is totally possible. You can totally feed your dogs human food. Well, it depends on the kind of food, but it is definitely possible to just not have to feed them this. You can just feed them chicken, plain chicken. Uh, there doesn't seem to be an issue with that. Some people actually feed their dogs like eggs and stuff like that instead of regular dog food, and so it's totally possible. Um, there are some exclusions, and Vegan Foot Soldier, I'm just going to call him VF, had brought up some of these exclusions on cats, for example. He basically talked about and linked this uh, website where it talked about the certain foods that cats can't eat, and it's very important, especially if you have a dog or a cat, to know what they can and can't eat. Um, it's just stuff like this, like tuna. Apparently, you can overfeed them on tuna, sugar, obviously, but some cats can. Some people feed their cats a whole bunch of things, like they'll just eat, or even dogs will eat anything like gets on the floor. You can't really have sugar. Can promote obesity, diabetes. Milk. This was something that I didn't know at all. I didn't. Apparently, it's very similar to dogs as well. Uh, Cats and dogs, once they get older, don't have the ability to break down lactose, right? They don't have the enzymes anymore. The same thing with humans. We don't really have the enzymes to break down lactose anymore because we are no longer babies. And there's just so many things here, and it goes the same thing with dogs. There are a lot of things that these are just the one, or what was it? This one, the one I tried to look it up myself, and a lot of them seemed like to be blogs, and some of them seem to contradict each other. Like one would say like you can eat tuna, and then the other one would say, oh, well, actually they can't. So it's not really that helpful here, but it does give you an idea of what they can and can't eat, I guess. Let me see here. Oh, this is something that Vegan Footshold or VF actually brought up, which was really, really interesting. I didn't know this. Most people make the argument. This happened when Vegan Gains was feeding his dog vegan dog food. Um, a lot of people would say, well, dogs are carnivores; they can't eat plants. Well, it turns out, actually looking into this idea, I thought the same thing. I was under the same impression, but it turns out that dogs are actually closer related to omnivores. The wolf, however, is 100% a carnivore, but the dog is actually closer to an omnivore. So knowing this, I can understand why some vegans get dogs and try to put them on vegan dog food, because with a cat is 100% a carnivore, so it can't survive off plants, and it's actually very bad for them to eat certain kinds of plants. And that's why, like, he also brought up the fact that some vegans would have cats and they would feed them vegan cat food, and that just doesn't make sense to me. They said they would supplement it, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea or not, but that is a thing that most vegans are probably going to try if they want a pet. They're going to try to feed them the most vegan options as possible. So I don't really know anything about vegan animal foods at all. I just remember watching one video where some guy did say that he would feed his dog vegan dog food, and he said that it was actually better than the conventional dog food, which is totally possible. If you actually look into the ingredients of a lot of dog foods, it's a lot of fillers and just animal byproducts like beaks, stuff like has like absolutely no nutritional benefit to it. Like there's just no point. You're basically feeding your dog nothing, and just calories. There's no nutrition in it. Um, already talked about the vegan gains thing. Anyway, so VF also talked about how he's met some people or read online somewhere that there are some testimonies of dogs actually living longer than they expected on the vegan dog food. So some people actually found that it was not only better, but that it actually increased the dog's lifespan, which is um, very concerning for me, or very sad to hear that it turns out that I could have been possibly feeding my dog a bad diet and could have been the reason why his lifespan was cut short. Uh, another thing I wanted to bring up though was the fact that he said this, but could the reason why those dogs were living longer was because they were actually getting more nutrients than they were from the shitty dog food that they were getting that had just a bunch of beaks and other byproducts in it? Were they living longer because they were eating the vegan dog food, or just because they were getting more nutrients in this diet? And if this were true, like let's say that we were feeding a dog chicken on it as a stable diet, yet he was living longer than the dog that was eating vegan dog food. Would that mean that, yes, even though that the dog is an omnivore, that there is a preferred, yes, he can eat meat, but is there a preferred source of food to survive versus so there's like two kinds of ways you can go here. You can either survive or you can thrive. So would this mean that if the dogs that were eating the vegan dog food were thriving, they were living longer than the dogs that were eating chicken? That means that the dogs were not that were eating chicken were surviving off of chicken, but they weren't thriving off it. So that would be really interesting to see a dog that eats solely chicken or beef just by itself, no added things to it at all. Uh, like just human food versus vegan dog food. That would be very, very interesting to see and see if one would make one live the longest. That'd be kind of interesting. Um, so I guess that's the end of this video. I just wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of interesting. The fact that dogs are omnivores, didn't know that before, and the fact that people should be really concerned with what they're feeding their pets if they actually like their pets and want them to live long. Let me know in the comments if you feed what you feed your dog or cat or any other animal you have. Let me know if if you feed your animal anything different than what the majority of people feed their animal, and let me know if it lived longer than it expected. And then leave a like if you thought if you thought dogs were straight up carnivores like I did. So that's the end of this video. Hope you guys found it somewhat informative. Hopefully you look into this and start feeding your pet better food. That's the end of this video. I hope, yeah, that's the end of this video.